But in recent legislation that has passed, and this was in Texas just last week, it passed. A federal judge indicated that the eviction moratorium is unconstitutional, or that's how they actually ruled. And I believe this is going to continue to go up in the Court of Appeals, higher up. But that's incredibly significant, because what most folks may not realize with the eviction moratorium is it does not defer payments as much as this moratorium just holds everything. Tenants were still responsible for the legal obligations and for the rules of the lease. So when that moratorium ends, what you're going to actually have is a big wave and a big flood of essentially a number of tenants not essentially able to cover the costs that they once had. And that is very, very unfortunate. And it really brings into a bigger question. The eviction moratorium, again, has been ruled unconstitutional. Again, it's still going up through the courts, so not sure how everything is going to fall there. But what it essentially does, and this is a really, really important thing to understand and recognize, is that it kicks the can down the road. That's essentially what a moratorium does. It kicks the can down the road. It does not solve the problem. It just pushes that problem further out until it can be better dealt with. But the question is, what is the collateral damage or the impact that happens from actually putting that into place? And that's what we all have to take a look at and decide, is it something that provided more benefit than not, or sort of the other way around? But it reminds me of the game you actually see behind me right here. Well, if I get my head out the way, Payday. And if you think of Payday, that what the eviction moratorium did is it pushed the rent down the road. So instead of pushing it down, let's say a month, it pushed it down, let's say 5 or 6 months. And the challenge with that is it would be one thing if you had the income to actually cover that big bill down the road, but you have 6 months of payments that are or bills that are collecting. And when that moratorium ends, then those payments are due. And so what you've done is you've pushed the can down the road. Eviction may have been something that would have happened 6 months ago, but you push it down the road, and let's say at the end of this month, that's something you actually have to deal with. And not only do you deal with that, you deal with that on a grander scale, because anyone that may have gotten, let's say, a month or 2 months behind in the process, everything's coming to a head. So when that moratorium ends, there's just going to be a wave and a flood that actually hits the market as a result. And I have my own prediction on what that actually means, but that's something we all have to consider. And this is just one example for what you'll actually see from some of this fallout of what should you do in cases that would be considered a crisis, and you actually have to step up and do something. And is the moratorium the right decision to make? And is it something that the government can even do? Because again, it was ruled unconstitutional, but what do you do in that situation? So I always like touching on topics where, man, maybe you don't have a game plan before, but you need to develop and make sure you have one in place. So I wanted to present the moratorium within that same light and that general idea. And happy to hear any thoughts or feedback you actually have on it. Want to make sure I'm covering kind of all the bases of the things that folks aren't thinking about. So I appreciate you tuning in and can't wait to catch you on the next episode. All right, bye.